People say weddings are supposed to be magical, the kind of day you remember for the rest of your life. But for me, a single wedding nearly tore everything apart. My name is Claire, I'm 31 years old, and I've spent the last decade carefully building a life I can finally be proud of. I work as a financial consultant, not glamorous, not flashy, but stable. I've always been smart with money, because I learned early that nobody was going to hand me anything. My savings, my career, my independence, I fought for all of it. And I thought I'd finally earned some peace. That peace lasted. Until my brother brought her home. Her name was Sabrina, and from the very first moment I met her, something felt wrong. She was breathtakingly beautiful, the kind of woman who turned heads the second she walked into a room. She knew exactly how to use that beauty, every smile seemed rehearsed, every laugh a little too perfect. At first, I thought maybe I was being too harsh, too judgmental. After all, this was the woman my younger brother, Daniel, had chosen to marry. And Daniel. He wasn't just my brother. He was my best friend, the only person who had stood by me through every storm life had thrown. Growing up, Daniel and I were inseparable. He used to sneak cookies into my backpack when I cried after school. When I graduated college and couldn't afford rent, he let me crash on his couch without a second thought. He's always been the kind of person who gives without asking for anything back. So when he introduced Sabrina, I forced myself to smile. If she made him happy, then I would find a way to accept her. But happiness. Sometimes it blinds people. At family dinners, Sabrina would gush about their future, lavish trips, $1 million home, even the perfect honeymoon destination in the Maldives. She spoke like she was auditioning for a reality show, not building a marriage. My parents, sweet and trusting, were enchanted by her. They thought she was sophisticated, ambitious, exactly the kind of partner Daniel deserved. I tried to see what they saw. But when her smile faded, when her eyes flickered with calculation, I knew. Sabrina wasn't thinking about Daniel. She was thinking about herself. The real cracks showed when the wedding planning began. At first, it was just expensive flower arrangements, a designer dress, endless talk about photographers who charged more than I made in a month. I thought, fine. Brides dream big. Maybe they'll scale back once reality hits. But Sabrina didn't scale back, she escalated. One night, during the engagement party, I caught her telling a bridesmaid, "I'm not worried about the money at all. Daniel's family will take care of it." She said it so casually, like it was already written in stone, like we were nothing more than a bank account for her fantasy. My stomach turned. Daniel's family? Our parents were retired librarians, living off pensions. And me? Sure, I had savings, but they were for my future, not her wedding. That was the first time I realized Sabrina wasn't just selfish. She was dangerous. Still, I stayed quiet. Daniel looked so happy, so in love. I couldn't be the one to shatter that. Not yet. But then came the night everything changed. It was almost midnight when my phone lit up. A message from Sabrina. My first thought was surprise, she never texted me directly. But when I opened it, my heart stopped. "Hi Claire. Since you're the most financially secure in the family, we were thinking you could help make our dream wedding come true. The venue we love is $80,000, and it would mean so much if you covered it. Think of it as your gift to us, you're the only one who can make this happen." Red heart emoji. I froze. $80,000. That was more than I made in an entire year. More than the down payment I'd been saving for a home of my own. More than I'd ever spent on anything. And she asked like it was nothing. Like I owed her. Like she was doing me a favor by letting me foot the bill. My hands trembled as I reread the message. Anger, disbelief, betrayal, they all twisted in my chest until I could barely breathe. Sabrina didn't just want a dream wedding. She wanted to use me to pay for it. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't just a wedding. This was war. I didn't reply right away. I couldn't. I just sat there, staring at the glowing screen in the dark, my chest pounding like it wanted to explode. My apartment felt suddenly too small, too suffocating. The audacity, the sheer entitlement, left me speechless. Part of me wanted to believe it was some kind of sick joke, that Sabrina was testing me, that maybe she'd follow it up with a just kidding. But the longer I stared at that little heart emoji at the end of her message, the more I realized she was deadly serious. I typed a response 3 times and deleted it each time. My first draft was pure rage, "Are you out of your mind?" The second was sarcasm, "Sure, let me just sell my organs first." The third was a polite refusal. But none of them felt right. In the end, I closed the phone and went to bed, though sleep didn't come. All I could think about was Daniel, sweet, selfless Daniel, completely blind to the kind of woman he was about to marry. The next morning, I pretended nothing had happened. I convinced myself I'd deal with it later. But later came faster than I expected. 2 days after that midnight text, my parents invited me over for brunch. As soon as I walked through the door, I saw Sabrina perched on the couch, her legs crossed elegantly, her manicured hand resting on Daniel's arm as though she owned him. She smiled at me, sweet and sugary, like the message had never happened. And then, as if on cue, she leaned toward my parents and said, "So, Claire, have you thought about our little proposal?" My blood ran cold. She had the nerve to bring it up in front of everyone. My mother looked confused. "Proposal?" Sabrina's eyes sparkled with feigned innocence. "Oh, I thought Claire had already told you. She's going to cover the venue costs. Isn't that just the most generous gift? We're so blessed to have her support." I nearly choked on my coffee. My parents' heads snapped toward me, surprise painted all over their faces. Daniel's eyes lit up, like he truly believed I was about to announce some grand act of kindness. I forced a smile, though my stomach was twisting. "Actually, Sabrina, I never agreed to anything." Her smile faltered for a split second, then quickly recovered. "Oh, come on, Claire. Don't be modest. We all know you're the most successful in the family. This is just one wedding, it's not like you can't afford it." The room went silent. My father cleared his throat. My mother looked down at her hands, embarrassed. Daniel's face shifted from hopeful to awkward, clearly torn between his fiancée and his sister. And me? I felt like I'd just been shoved onto a stage, expected to perform generosity while everyone watched. I swallowed hard, my voice steady but sharp. "Sabrina, I've worked years for what I have. My savings aren't some open vault for anyone else's dreams. If you want a wedding that costs $80,000, you should be the ones paying for it." Her eyes hardened, just for a flicker, before she plastered on another smile. Of course," she said quickly, waving a hand as if it were no big deal. "I was only suggesting it because you're family, and family helps each other." But the way she said it, the pointed emphasis on family, wasn't a suggestion. It was a threat. After that brunch, everything changed. Sabrina started acting colder toward me. Subtle, at first. She'd make sly remarks like, "Not everyone has Claire's kind of money," whenever we were around relatives. She began excluding me from group chats about the wedding, then accidentally leaving me out of important updates. At first, I brushed it off, telling myself she was just moody, stressed, a typical bride-to-be. But the little digs piled up, cutting deeper each time. At a dress fitting, she looked me up and down and said, "You know, you'd look amazing as a bridesmaid, if we can find something to flatter your figure." At a family barbecue, she laughed and told Daniel's friends, "Claire's too busy counting pennies to understand romance." Each time, I swallowed my anger. For Daniel. For the brother who had never let me down. But deep inside, resentment was bubbling, threatening to spill over. Then came the first real sabotage. One morning, a longtime client called me in a panic. Apparently, someone had emailed them pretending to be me, demanding early payment and threatening to cancel the contract. My stomach dropped as I listened to the details. The email address was a fake, but the signature, my signature, had been copied perfectly. I spent hours doing damage control, terrified I'd lose the client. And as I pieced it together, there was one person who'd recently asked me too many questions about my work schedule, my clients, even how I structured invoices. Sabrina. I couldn't prove it, not yet, but in my gut, I knew. The scariest part wasn't just that she'd gone behind my back. It was how easily she played innocent afterward. That evening at dinner, she leaned close to me, her voice sweet but dripping with venom. Rough day at work? Maybe if you were less stubborn about helping with the wedding, karma wouldn't bite so hard. I nearly dropped my fork. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about money anymore. This was about control. Sabrina wanted to break me down, humiliate me, make me bend until I snapped. And worst of all, she was using my own family as pawns in her game. I wish I could say I confronted her right then and there. But instead, I smiled through gritted teeth and pretended not to hear. Because deep down, I knew something. Sabrina was building her trap carefully, step by step. But she had no idea, I was watching her just as closely. And the day would come when her mask slipped for good. It all came crashing down one morning, the kind of morning that starts out perfectly ordinary, only to end in absolute ruin. I had been preparing for weeks for a new client pitch. This deal wasn't just any deal, it was the kind of contract that could double my income and finally give me enough savings to buy a home of my own. I spent sleepless nights fine-tuning the presentation, rehearsing my words until they were sharp as glass. By the time the day arrived, I felt ready. Nervous, but ready. I woke up early, put on my best suit, made a fresh pot of coffee, and opened my laptop to go over the final slides. But the moment I logged in, my blood turned to ice. My inbox was flooded, dozens of angry emails, subject lines screaming words like unprofessional, unacceptable, contract cancelled. My hands shook as I clicked one open. Claire, we trusted you with this partnership, but demanding payment upfront and then disappearing is not how business is done. Effective immediately, we are withdrawing our interest. Please do not contact us again. Another email. Another lost client. And another. By the time I reached the end of the inbox, I realized nearly every major client I had was gone. My entire business, years of hard work, late nights, sacrifices, destroyed overnight. My stomach lurched. My vision blurred. I grabbed my phone, desperately scrolling through sent emails, searching for what had happened. And then I found it. Someone had hacked my account. Someone had sent emails in my name, demanding money, making threats, burning every single bridge I had worked to build. And in that moment, I knew. I didn't have proof yet, but I knew. Sabrina. My breathing turned shallow. I tried calling one of my clients to explain, but they didn't want to hear it. My reputation was in ashes. No one cared if I was hacked. To them, I was just another scammer. When Daniel called that afternoon, I expected comfort. I expected him to hear the panic in my voice and tell me he believed me. Instead, his words nearly shattered me. Claire, he said, his tone heavy with disappointment, Sabrina told me you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe that's why you're lashing out. But you can't keep blaming her for everything. She would never do something like this. I choked on my own breath. Daniel, listen to me, she's behind this. She's trying to destroy me. But he sighed, tired, frustrated. Claire, she said, you've been paranoid. That you're jealous of her. Please. Stop this before you drive a wedge in the family. A wedge. As if I was the problem. When I hung up, my apartment felt colder than ever before. The silence pressed against me, suffocating. My business was gone. My clients were gone. And now, the one person I thought would stand by me, my brother, was slipping away, brainwashed by the very woman tearing me apart. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of humiliation pressed heavier with each passing moment. Relatives started whispering. A cousin even called me, saying Sabrina had told them I was unstable, that I'd been making reckless financial decisions, that I had tried to sabotage the wedding out of spite. I wanted to scream. To tear down every lie she had spun around me. But I had nothing, no evidence, no proof, just a gut-deep certainty that she was pulling the strings. The lowest point came at my parents' house. We were sitting down for dinner, trying to keep the conversation light, when Sabrina leaned across the table with her syrupy smile and said, "You know, Claire, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that your little business fell apart. Now you'll have more free time to help with the wedding." The table went silent. My fork clattered to the plate. I stared at her, my vision narrowing to a tunnel. She knew. She wanted me to know she knew. And she was daring me to say something, to make a scene, to prove her accusations of instability true. For the first time in my life, I felt powerless. Truly powerless. That night, I curled up on my couch and sobbed until my throat was raw. I thought about giving up, walking away from everything, letting Sabrina win, because fighting seemed impossible. But then, through the haze of tears, I opened my laptop one last time. And that's when I saw it. Buried deep in the hacked emails, a single mistake. A trace of something that didn't belong. An IP address that hadn't been masked properly. A breadcrumb leading straight back to Sabrina's account. It was small, almost insignificant. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But I did. And in that flicker of discovery, something shifted inside me. My despair burned away, replaced by something sharper. Something colder. If Sabrina wanted a war, then she was about to get one. Once I saw that breadcrumb, everything inside me changed. The trembling victim who had sat on her couch sobbing was gone. In her place was someone colder, sharper, someone who finally understood that the only way to deal with Sabrina was to play her game, and beat her at it. I spent nights digging through every single hacked email, tracing metadata, chasing digital shadows. I wasn't an IT expert, but desperation makes you resourceful. I read forums, watched tutorials, reached out to a friend who owed me a favor from college. Slowly, piece by piece, the puzzle came together. And there it was, her mistake. Sabrina had been clever, but not clever enough. In her arrogance, she'd used her own personal email once, just once, while rerouting one of the fake invoices. It was like she had signed her crime with a flourish of her own name. I gathered everything, screenshots, IP logs, timestamps. Proof that she had infiltrated my business, sabotaged my livelihood. But I didn't stop there. The more I dug, the more filth I uncovered. Luxury spa appointments paid with my stolen credit card. Expensive handbags ordered under my name, shipped to her address. Hotel bookings, lavish suites she hadn't even bothered to hide. She had left a trail of greed so wide it was impossible to ignore. But I wasn't going to march straight to Daniel with my findings. No. That would have been too easy, too small. She had humiliated me in front of my family, twisted me into the villain in their eyes. If she wanted to put on a show, then I would give her the performance of her life. I waited. Patiently. The perfect opportunity came 2 weeks before the wedding. My parents were hosting a family dinner, a last gathering before the big day, as they called it. Everyone would be there, our relatives, friends, Daniel, and of course, Sabrina. The woman who had nearly destroyed me. The night arrived. I dressed simply, nothing flashy, but I wore a calmness I hadn't felt in months. When I walked into my parents' home, the air was thick with laughter, glasses clinking, Sabrina floating around the room in her designer dress like she was already the queen of this family. She spotted me across the room and smiled, that same saccharine smile she always wore. "Claire," she sang out, "so glad you could make it. I was just telling everyone how excited we are for the wedding. Daniel and I are truly blessed." Blessed. The word nearly made me laugh. Dinner went smoothly at first. My parents beamed, Daniel looked love-struck, and Sabrina played the perfect fiancée. But as dessert was served, I cleared my throat and said, "Actually, I'd like to share something with everyone tonight. Consider it a gift." The room quieted. Dozens of eyes turned toward me. Sabrina tilted her head, feigning curiosity, but I caught the flicker of unease in her gaze. I pulled out my laptop and set it on the table. My fingers moved steadily, deliberately. Over the past few months, I've been struggling with my business. Clients dropping me, contracts cancelled, accusations I couldn't understand. I thought I was losing everything because of my own mistakes. I paused, looking directly at Sabrina. But then I discovered the truth. Click. The first screenshot appeared on the screen, one of the hacked emails, traced back to an IP address. "This," I said calmly, "is the digital footprint of the person who accessed my accounts. And this," another click, another slide, showing her personal email linked to one of the transactions, "is the mistake they made. A mistake that ties everything back to Sabrina." A gasp rippled through the table. Daniel's fork clattered to his plate. My mother pressed a hand to her mouth. Sabrina's smile wavered, but she recovered quickly, forcing a laugh. "Claire, this is ridiculous. Anyone can fake that kind of thing. Are you seriously accusing me of cybercrime?" "Oh, I'm not accusing," I said, my voice steel. "I'm proving." Another click. Bank statements appeared. Charges to my credit card, luxury spas, handbags, hotels. All traced, all under her name. "You didn't even bother to cover your tracks. You thought I'd be too broken, too humiliated to fight back. But you were wrong." The room erupted. My father demanded an explanation. My mother whispered, "Oh my God." Daniel looked like someone had punched him in the gut. Sabrina stood, her mask cracking. "This is insane. Claire's just jealous. She's been trying to sabotage me from the start." I leaned back in my chair, calm as fire. "If I'm jealous, then why did the police confirm these transactions trace back to your account? Why did my bank already begin their investigation? You're not just a liar, Sabrina. You're a thief." Her face drained of color. For the first time, her confidence faltered. Daniel pushed back his chair, his voice shaking. "Sabrina. Is this true?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Just silence. Heavy, damning silence. The performance was over. She grabbed her purse, her eyes wild, and without another word, she stormed out of the house. The front door slammed so hard the walls rattled. For a long moment, the room was frozen. No one spoke. And then Daniel buried his face in his hands, his shoulders trembling. I felt no pity. None. She had tried to bury me. But instead, she handed me the shovel. The days after that dinner were a whirlwind. My phone rang constantly, relatives calling, friends messaging, half of them apologizing for ever doubting me. But I didn't care about their guilt. The only thing I cared about was that Sabrina was finally exposed. Daniel showed up at my apartment the very next morning. His face was pale, his suit disheveled, like he hadn't slept all night. "Claire," he began, his voice breaking. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. She told me you were jealous, that you were obsessed with ruining her. I believed her." He raked a hand through his hair, looking utterly lost. "I don't know how to fix this." I stared at him for a long time. Once, the sight of him in pain would have gutted me. But now, all I felt was a cold clarity. You don't need to fix it, I said quietly. Because I'm not yours to fix anymore. His eyes filled with regret, but I didn't waver. He had chosen Sabrina over me long before the truth surfaced. That wound ran too deep to ever heal. Meanwhile, Sabrina's empire of lies crumbled faster than anyone expected. The bank froze her accounts. The police called me for more statements. And word spread, fast. She lost her job within days, her company couldn't afford the scandal. Her friends, the ones she flaunted at parties, turned their backs the moment her name hit the news. It was poetic, really. The woman who had built her life on appearances now had nothing left to hide behind. I heard rumors, whispers that she tried to flee the city, that she begged old lovers for money, that she was spotted screaming at a bank teller when they refused her withdrawal. I didn't chase those rumors. Sabrina was no longer my concern. She had dug her own grave. As for me? For the first time in months, I could breathe. My business, though scarred, began to recover. Some clients returned, apologizing profusely for doubting me. Others were gone for good, but I didn't mind. I had learned to value the ones who stood by me when everything fell apart. And then there was me, the Claire who had emerged from the fire. Stronger. Colder, yes, but not in a way that made me bitter. In a way that made me unbreakable. One evening, as I stood on my balcony watching the sunset, my mother joined me. She slipped her arm through mine, silent for a while. Then she said softly, "I'm proud of you, Claire. You could have let her destroy you. But instead, you rose." I smiled faintly. She thought she could write my ending. But I wrote it myself. That night, I opened my laptop and drafted a post for my business page. Not the usual promotional content. This time, it was personal. I've learned that betrayal doesn't just come from strangers. Sometimes, it comes from the people you once trusted most. But betrayal is not the end, it's a beginning. It forces you to find strength you never knew you had. And in the end, the truth always wins. To anyone fighting silent battles, hold on. Your story isn't over yet. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from women and men alike, people who had faced their own betrayals, their own Sabinas. They told me my story gave them courage. And in that moment, I realized something profound. What Sabrina meant for destruction had become my greatest weapon. She hadn't ruined me, she had forged me.